You are tuning in to the You Are Loved podcast, where we hope to bring love and kindness to the world.
Welcome to another edition of the You Are Loved podcast. Super excited. And I am running last minute as well. But thank you guys, everyone, for tuning in. Just wanted to let you know that we are going to be hosting a mastermind along with our 18-month planner. And before I was on, and so anyways, you'll be able to get that at youarelovedplanner.com. And so it's a 1-hour mastermind along with the planner, which is absolutely amazing. Okay, so now the other thing is Howard is absolutely amazing. I was on his podcast, Shining Brightly.
Yes.
And Howard, I'm looking for your bio and I cannot find it. So, can you share a little bit about who you are and share your story with us?
Sure, I'll do the intro. So I'm Howard Brown. I'm talking to you now from Michigan, originally from Boston, but I'm politely known as Mr. Shining Brightly because we need to shine our light all over the world and become a force multiplier for hope and goodness and kindness. Just so that's why we're so aligned, Jacqueline. But I am a former Silicon Valley technology executive, and now I'm actually an author and international speaker, and I have a great podcast show called The Shining Brightly Show. And every day wake up and look in the mirror and say, I am blessed, I am lucky, I am grateful. How can I lift up myself so I can lift up others?
That is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Howard. Appreciate that. And so, you've also tell us a little bit about your books that you have written.
Absolutely. So during the pandemic, I actually dictated a book on Zoom. I interviewed 158 of the most influential, important people in my life to develop a memoir. That memoir is on screen now for those that are watching. It's called Shining Brightly. And the Shining Brightly is a compilation of my life, starting with my grandmother that came from Lithuania, Russia, Poland.
Oh, wow.
And Ukraine could have been, and got stuck in Antwerp, Belgium, because they wouldn't let her come across to go through Ellis Island. But she came through Canada to meet up with her family in Boston as a 15-year-old girl, and that's how my life started. And I'm a twin. Very important fact later on, and I take you through my life, and I've had some major ups and downs in my life. We all get knocked down in life and business, relationships, and health. And I take people through the stories and lead them through a journey of resilience to hope and everything in between. And that was my first book I ever did. And it became an Amazon bestseller in October of 22. So I'm coming up on its 2-year-old birthday. And then subsequently, I've written a lot of collaborative books. One of them is called The Art of Connection. And The Art of Connection is one page, and one of the volumes I did, it's Inspiration of Transformation. One has been on gratitude. And then this book coming out later this year is on abundance. And I've been in a bunch of business books for entrepreneurship, mentorship, and leadership as well. And what I learned is that when you write a book, you need to be able to speak about it and tell the stories from the book. So that's how I actually been speaking on probably over 150 podcasts and then 100 episodes of my own. And your episode's coming out in about a month, which I'm excited about. And then also speaking on stage. So being able to speak in front of live crowds since the pandemic is now coming back, and be able to, really lift up the audience and be able to give them take-home value. So I'm having a blast.
That's awesome. Nothing like being able to have in-person events and being able to hobnob, network, and being able to actually meet the speaker, directly. And that's always super exciting. So you are bringing out another book in addition to your memoir that you've already written, right?
So I'm
Is that what you
working on
said?
it right now.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
working on it right now. We're going to keep it in the stealth mode right now, but is a book in progress, of course. And I also blog for something called Read the Spirit, at least once a month, and of all sorts of topics. And I'll give a little teaser, but I just went back to my 40th high school reunion, and those can be kind of uncomfortable, right? You haven't seen people. I haven't been in 20 years, right? And so I went back, and because I was the vice president of my high school class, Framingham South High class of '84, I asked them and did a social experiment. So we commemorated the people that had passed away. And then I said, I'd like you to answer 3 questions. And I handed out little index cards. And I said, what gives you hope? And that's it. It was what gives you hope. The second question was, how do you find joy? And the last question, and this is the question I wanted to ask everybody, are you having a good life?
Mm.
I got 20 responses back, and then people like, oh, I can't do that right now. I don't want homework. I'm just drinking, having fun. Can I email you? I said, yeah. I said, so I'm going to put a compilation article together to say what that is. Now, I don't know if people do that normally, but
No, I think that was exciting. I love that.
it's cool. And so it was really great. And listen, we haven't got into the meat of my story yet, but we will. There was reasons for me asking, because people don't, that don't know me and know that the health things that I've been through, my high school people do know. And, I wanted to actually find out, because they asked me the same question. Have I had a good life? And I've had a very hard life in certain parts, and in other parts, it's just been unbelievable. So everyone gets challenged, but I've had so many highs and lows, and maybe higher and lower than most people, but it was really cool. So great reunion, great food, great meeting up with people that haven't seen in a long time. And everybody was nice to each other, and there was no drama. And we all went for a nightcap, and it was cool. I really enjoyed it. And this is outside of Boston, so fun stuff.
Oh, that's exciting. That was just this past weekend, right?
Yeah, Saturday night. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So did you guys do like a 2-day reunion, or was it just a 1 day? Because we usually do 2 days, like 1 day at like a restaurant where everyone's, just like hangs out the outside bar. And then the other one is like, like we did it at like the casino or something a little bit more formal.
So we're 58. Okay. So a lot of people now have kids, some have grandkids, some have been divorced 1, 2, or 3 times. So what people did was that a lot of people who came in from out of town, they had their pregame on Friday night with their clique or their group. And
Got you.
I did too. And then Saturday we all came together. And then a few people did stuff in Boston. It was a gorgeous weekend, sunny and 75. Some people went to the Red Sox game, and other people went and did sightseeing. Other people just went to brunch. And then people start hitting out of town Sunday afternoon, Sunday night.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but what I noticed was our little private Facebook group got flooded with hundreds and hundreds of pictures, and that was
Oh, that's
cool.
great.
Yeah, so it was cool. And so that the next one we did 40, so they decided next one is going to be 50. So we're going to wait 10 years and do a 50th, and hopefully people are still chugging along and doing their thing, and we'll gather then again.
That's great. You're how old?
I'm 58.
Okay, I was gonna say, for some reason I thought you said like 54 or something, and I was like, did he graduate when he was 14? I was like,
No.
okay, all right, that makes more sense.
Good.
So okay, that's
I'm a young
exciting.
58. 58, is the new 40.
Is it? That's what they say,
Sure
huh?
it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So okay. So something like, I love that your podcast, like you're super nice and very friendly, and you do definitely have like this whole shining brightly persona. It's real. I'm not saying it's fake, but like just your whole spirit about you and stuff like that. It's just very upbeat. I think it's great. I had a great time on your pod. So my question for you is, like, you're a 2-time stage 5 cancer survivor, and how was it that you've like learned, or what was it, do you think, inside of you that had you keep like a positive attitude going through these different challenges? in your life, like the rough times?
Sure. So first of all, there's no stage 5. It's only up to stage 4.
Stage 4.
So
Okay.
stage 5 is God called you to heaven. So stage 4.
Well, stage 4.
So
Stage 4.
yeah,
Sorry.
no problem. So listen, I got stage 4 non-Hodgkin's T-cell lymphoma of cancer of my lymphatic system, of blood cancer, when I was 23 and a half years old in 1989. It was analog days. It was no cell phones. There was no internet. And computer use was just really at its beginning. So it was a very different time. And so things were slower. Information processing was, fax machines probably had just been invented. So it was really a slower time. It was really a slower time. And we got a book on cancer that was probably 20 years old, had no idea. And it just stopped me in my tracks. When you are told that you have stage 4 blood cancer of your whole lymphatic system, I think I went into denial. I had anger. I was not happy about it at all. And I was really fearful because it was the unknown. I really was a deer in the headlights for sure. And so there's a learning process, but the trauma is real. The trauma is real, not just for me, the patient. I moved back home with mom and dad. It changed their whole lives. It changed my twin sister's life. Everyone around you gets affected. Now, I imagine that out of your audience and listeners and viewers, they know someone that has had cancer, whether a family member or a dear friend. It just touches all lives now. And it's devastating emotionally, physically, financially, and in relationships. And I had a blood cancer that took away my immune system. I couldn't be around people. I had to wear gloves and a mask. I did, and go to the hospital every day. And so it was it stopped me in my tracks, and I had to figure it out. So I was not always positive. I was not always happy. I was alone a lot. I played Nintendo because that was what you could play back then.
Nintendo 64, Mario Brothers, Galaga.
Yeah, but it was early first versions of that. I had a game called Pong, which is just a ball across a screen off a black and white TV. So I didn't get much good news. I really didn't, until my twin sister, they typed her for bone marrow transplantation. It's now called stem cell transplantation. And she was an exact match, a 1 in 25,000 chance. And that's hitting the lottery right there.
Yeah.
Now, would it work? Because that was fairly experimental back then. And so they had to even eliminate my immune system more. On May 17th, I went in and they hit me up with tons of chemo and full body radiation twice a day. That's really tough stuff.
Were you staying in the hospital at that time?
Absolutely. I was in an isolation room. Were you like the boy in the bubble? Correct. I was John Travolta in the bubble. I was in what's called an isolation room. People had to scrub up and wash up. You could just see their eyes and they'd come in. And because I had no immune system and I was very susceptible to any bacteria, any virus, any fungus, anything could really hurt me because I couldn't defend myself. My DNA, my body couldn't defend myself with it. So they wiped it out. And then a week later, they brought in a little purple bag. It was a little purple bag about the size of a 3x5 index card. And my sister had that surgery where they extracted it at 6 a.m. They cleaned it up. So around 5 o'clock on May 24th, they walked in. And I must have had 20 people in the room, Jackie. It was packed. All these people gowned up. And what they were doing was they were trying to see, because if you transplant an organ or blood into someone, it could kill you right away. And I knew that. And I signed paperwork that said it could kill me. It could give me severe side effects called graft versus host disease. And they hoped it would work, but you don't know. And it's from my sister. It was an exact match, but you don't know until they actually start the infusion. So they start the infusion, empty out this little purple bag, and all of a sudden I'm stable. People start exiting out the room. And finally, after about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, the room is empty and it's my mom. My dad was with my sister as she was recovering. And she was great. She got discharged doing aerobics a couple of days later, had some sore hips. So I'm going to bring up something on the screen, Jackie, but I was looking at this bag going, is it going to save my life? Is it going to kill me? And I looked at my mom and there's this empty infusion bag. And you can tell it's from like the 80s, 1989, because there's handwriting on it. So this little bag
Oh,
that I'm holding
wow.
up is the infusion bag. I said, Mom,
Oh,
take it.
wow. That small bag, that was all the red blood cells she gave you?
All
Or is
her
it
bone
marrow?
marrow,
Bone marrow,
yeah,
yeah.
which is
Wow.
stem cells. So, anyways, it's handwritten, and they don't do that now. They go computer printouts on there. So I said, Mom, take that bag, and she goes, No, I'll get in trouble. I go, get in trouble for what? They won't even know it. They're going to throw it out. And she put it in her pocket. And I want to tell you, and I'm holding this on my heart right now. My twin sister, CJ, Cheryl Brown Gingras, basically saved my life. This is my bag of life. This saved my
Yeah.
life. It took a little more time in isolation, and her immune system became my immune system and killed the malignancy. It killed lymphoma.
Wow, praise God.
Isn't it a miracle? It's a miracle.
Yeah.
I did a clinical trial to strengthen my DNA called my natural killer T cells. And in December of that year, I was told that I actually go on surveillance, and they just every quarter for the next 5 years, they're going to take, scan and take blood work and to monitor me to make sure I don't have a recurrence. And I was 136 pounds and bald, and I had to put my life back together. So in my book, I call it in the chapter when I'm rebuilding is I had to put Humpty Dumpty back together again with all the king's men and all the king's horses and get back up again. And so I did that in Los Angeles. I moved from Boston. I got my job back at a big computer company, and I started to rebuild. So part of that is, emotionally kind of processing the trauma. And I'm not sure I did it well or not. Physically going to the gym, finding my happy place, the basketball court, walking on the beach, and doing community service helped. And I met my wife, and my career was starting to get back on track. And I became a big brother, and I was in the warm weather, and I didn't know many people in LA. I started from scratch, and I think what you asked about is advice for others is that I basically put it back together again, but it was work. I'm not telling you that just happened overnight. This is a work in progress, but I did it, and I kept at it, and there was days I was just exhausted because I had no stamina, but I worked at it, and I figured it out. And then the blessings started to come, and I got married to Lisa in 1994, overlooking the Pacific Ocean.
Great.
We made everybody come out from the East Coast, even though we had earthquakes and stuff. And I had a gorgeous sunset wedding, and we started our life together. And that life, and really why we were joined was all about community service. And so I became a big brother, and we were helping out the community. And my career was booming because I started to hit startups and generate revenue and commissions and start make big bucks again. And I got basically recruited to be the VP of sales of a tech startup up in Silicon Valley. And so we moved from LA and Pacific Palisades and Santa Monica, Malibu area up to Silicon Valley. And it was just a whole different ballgame because this is the mid 90s, and the technology.
That was when it was like the boom.
It was the boom, and it was crazy, and there was no rules, and we went from Web 1.0 to start to get digital a little bit more and more, and cell phones were entering the picture, and not even search engines were available just quite then. And so the one thing that I did, and again, is that I fell off the wagon of workaholicness. I basically started to be a workaholic because that was the pace up there. I was matching everyone else's pace, and everyone else works, 15 hours a day, and you should too. And that's not correct. That's not work-life balance. And so my wife, after a while, she said, we've been married now 7 years, and, we should, think about having a family. Well, the one thing I didn't tell you, Jackie, was that before I did a drop of chemotherapy in 1989, I ended up failing a blood test where my liver function was too high. So that was the first day I was going to do chemo. My doctor, out of either God vision or wisdom, told me to go to a cryogenic center down the street.
And
so
save your sperm.
Went to the sperm bank, right? And so I kind of did it, and because they told me I was going to die, I forgot about it. My dad was paying my bills, and so eventually I was. So and I told that to my wife, Lisa, when we first, after we were getting serious. And so she said, let's call for the sperm. And we did. And we went through in vitro fertilization and a process called ICSI, where she made up about 8 eggs and they defrosted the sperm and put 4 of them back in a harvest. They defrosted, put the best swimmers back in. And one of those became a beautiful miracle girl named Emily. Blessing number 2, miracle number 2. We call her our frozen kidsicle. It's in the book because it's true. And it was just amazing that I was able to have my own daughter. I mean, we could have adopted in surrogacy. There was other options, but imagine that 11 years later, I have the ability not only to beat stage 4 cancer, but to have a family, and the foresight of my doctor, Eric Rubin.
Yeah. Wow.
Send me that day to the cryogenics. If he sent me the next time, I couldn't do it because I would have already started chemotherapy. And so Isn't that incredible? Amazing. So I get this phone call. We're in Silicon Valley. We have a good life. I'm trying to curb being a workaholic as best I can because I have a new baby daughter. And my twin sister, who saved my life, calls me and says, I'm moving to Michigan. Well, and she has kids that are twins, girl boy twins as well, and also an older daughter. And my wife is from Michigan. And I looked at Lisa. I said, we have to have our families, raised in Michigan and let the kids have cousins and aunts and uncles. And so we moved to Michigan in 2005.
So you left that job?
No, I did leave that actually job, but I'd already started a new job because the pendulum in Silicon Valley had swung back the other way. So
that was
after the .com, there's something called the dot crash or the .bomb.
Yeah.
So it swung back. I had already started a new technology platform for the world's largest social networks, faith and religion. And I moved to Michigan. I could do that anywhere. So I was ahead of the remote work at home crowd. And I was managing remote teams and building software for platforms. And life was good, playing hoops. I had a beautiful daughter, bouncing baby girl. I had my nieces and my nephews, my in-laws. My mom and dad came out from Boston a lot. Life was good. It was really good. Humpty Dumpty was doing his thing. And I ended up in 2016. So I'm moving the clock forward about almost 11 years. Everything's good, except that I'm 50 years old and now I have to go in for a colonoscopy. And the screening age, it was 50 then. It's now 45 unless you have family history or you have symptoms. And I time out, go get screened. Don't get cancer. Go get screened for your mammogram and your pap smear and your prostate and your colon.
Stay ahead of the game.
And go to the dentist. Yeah, because if you get screened, the chances are of not getting cancer are way higher. And if you get it early, the chances of living are higher. Yeah. So I went in and I didn't really have any symptoms. I should have been screened at 40, but I wasn't. And I woke up after a colonoscopy in June of 2016. My wife had my hand and I looked up at the doctor, Dr. Phil, everything's great. I'm an athlete. I'm in good shape. No symptoms. He says, no, I found something. And that something was stage 3B colon cancer. And lightning struck again. I got cancer. So what we didn't know is that when you have a young onset cancer, and that young onset term didn't exist at 23, the chances of getting a secondary cancer are much higher. And I got colon cancer because I didn't get screened at 40 or 42 or 45. And I was back in the chemo chair and lightning struck again. And this time it's, I didn't run home to mom and dad. I'm married 22 years. I have a 14, 15-year-old daughter. And so it was very different.
You are the dad now.
I am the dad, exactly. And so I ended up doing the treatments. The treatments failed me. I had surgeries called colon resections or hemicolectomies. I had chemotherapy, rock'em sock'em. I left lots of side effects, peripheral neuropathy, chemo brain PTSD, digestive issues. And I ended up having more surgery, failed clinical trial. And then 13 months, right after the first diagnosis, I became stage 4. And stage 4 metastatic is a bad thing. You Google that, it gives your life clock is shrinking from years down to months. And so I ended up becoming stage 4 with a spread to my liver, my stomach lining called peritoneal momentum, and my bladder. And that's the moment where they tell you to get your affairs in order and that you're not going to live much longer. And the unfortunately, the 5-year survival rate for stage 4 colon cancer is awful. And it's higher even for minorities and Latino and African Americans. And it's a bad disease and it's really on the growth right now. It's the number 2 cancer, number 1 killer for men under 50, number 2 for women breast cancer is still the number 1. And I'm sitting there now with a daughter that's watching me go through chemotherapy. I'm bald. I'm 136 pounds and I'm fighting for my life. But this time it's the digital age, Jackie. All right. Facebook's around. I was and I chose this because I respect anyone who wants to keep their diagnosis and their life private. I chose to actually share with people my journey.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I did that is because for me, it was a calling out to others to send a prayer, send a joke, send me some cheerleading, right? Also, I needed help in my time of need. And this is the lessons I learned of not to isolate, learn to accept help. And people came flying to help us in our time of need. And I'm so grateful for that. And they were allowed, my light was dimming. I was walking in darkness called cancer, okay, in treatment. And their light was lifting me up. But I still had bad days. I still had awful side effects. But I have to tell you, the people and the support that they gave was immense, from the school, the soccer coaches, the food trains, helping me with a GoFundMe because I got slammed with medical bills. That was amazing. And what I really learned, okay, one of the truths out of my book was, in this world, it's absolutely not what you get in this world. It's what you give, because people lifted me up. And that's the central theme of when people, need you, when they're walking in darkness from divorce, job loss, alcoholism, drug abuse, trafficking, whatever that darkness is, you want to actually go and build your cavalry. And if you don't have a cavalry, people can help build it for you, like me,
Right.
and be able to receive help in your time of need and lift you up. So then you can go pay it back and pay it forward and lift up others. And that's the lesson. And so I did a major pivot because I didn't know if I was going to live, and I did. And again, it's rare, but I'm 5 years cancer free, September 20th. Major
Wow,
blessing.
praise God. So you just passed the 5 years.
5 years is a
That's
big,
great.
big marker. Yeah.
That's
So,
great.
you just want to put that in the rearview mirror.
How was it that you beat it? Like, did someone give you a suggestion or something online? Like,
Yes, I'm going to tell you. I found a group of people at colontown.org that had basically became my cancer mentors, or I call them cancer whisperers in my book, that were 5 or 10 steps ahead of me, that basically were on the front lines of fighting for their life and were surviving. And they gave me such beautiful support and guidance. But I got to talk to someone that we were already on the same level. They had already been in where I've been, and they just pulled me through, pulled me up, and they gave me the ideas, because in cancer, you have to have what's called lots of planes on the runway, clinical trials. Some things don't work, you relapse. I actually learned about this crazy surgery called cytoreduction hypothermic intrapernal chemotherapy, where they cut me open, removed all the cancer, live and dead cancer cells, and poured hot chemotherapy in my pelvis and abdomen and spun me around like a rotisserie chicken to get absorption to kill micro cell cancer. And it worked for me. It worked for me. It saved my life. That's miracle number 3, Jackie. 3 miracles in a life, two stage 4 cancer diagnosis. And now, listen, am I affected by this emotionally, physically, financially, and in relationship? Absolutely. But I decided to take my whole well-being and turn it onto shining brightly and create a movement, okay, to lift up others, whether they're in times of joy or in times of need.
Yeah.
And that's my movement. And that's what the Shining Brightly movement does. And that's what I'm about. And that's what I'm focused in on. And I really think it's so needed in this time.
Yeah.
It's really needed. And it goes along with You Are Loved, right?
Yeah.
Because we do the same thing. But now we've joined forces to do it together. And it's better together, stronger together.
100%. It definitely needs, and it's really thankful, because we definitely need more organizations or podcasts or books or movements that are, about creating kindness and harmony and peace and shining brightly and knowing that they're loved and all of that, which is an absolute blessing. So that's amazing. That's amazing. Congratulations on that. I was at the races not too long ago, and I actually met somebody that had it was an older guy, probably in his 60s, but he had a similar story to me. Like when I was in my 20s, I was born with a defective valve. And when I was in my 20s, I had to have open heart surgery. Okay. So I had a valve replacement. And it was either given as a pig valve or a metal valve, which was my options, right? Metal valve, I'd have to be on Coumadin, side effects for kids. That was a no-go. Pig valve doesn't last as long, 7 to 12 years, right? And then you'd have to go under again. So I had been praying and I was like, Lord, please, can you just heal my heart? I know you can heal it. And when I woke up, I was told that I got a cadaver valve. So I never had to have surgery again, which wasn't even provided. I can't hear you, Howard.
I just said, oh my God. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Okay. So, is that better?
We're back.
Okay. Yeah. So that was like, yeah. And then the gentleman that was next to me, he actually got offered the cadaver valve. They first offered him the other ones, but then he got offered the cadaver valve. I guess they had extras laying around. So, but someone happened to pass away at that same time that I was getting the surgery, and I guess they were a donor. So that was just like a huge blessing. And I was like, all right, Lord, like I gotta do something better with my life instead of hanging out all the time. So yeah, so it's just like miracle stories like that. And I love that your sister, it's like God gave you a twin because he knew that you'd need her for that day and for your friendship and love and all that stuff as well. I think that's a blessing. Okay, Howard. So if anybody wanted to find you and get in touch with you, where would be the best place?
It's really easy, and it's on the screen.
Which
If you're
all
watching,
the links are in the
or the show
all
notes
the
and
links are in
stuff.
the description as well. Yeah.
Perfect. So it's shiningbrightly.com, and it's real simple. And so you can find my book also on Amazon, and also speaking. I do a lot of speaking on podcasts and in person. So if you want me to make your event shine, reach out to me to speak. And I'd love to motivate, educate, and inspire. Also, as Jackie knows, she's been on the Shining Brightly show, and it's all about inspiration, high vibe, short show, but every Wednesday. And you can find that on 24 channels, Apple, Spotify. Just look it up and you find it all over the place. I've got my 100th show coming out October 6th. Jackie will be, probably 108 or something like that. And then my advocacy, which is very important to me. I am the chairman of the board of Colon Town and giving back to that and helping cancer patients. Also help and mentor entrepreneurial students at Babson College. And I do a lot of work in the interfaith space. And especially in these times, we need to be nice to each other and kind to each other and grateful and giving. And so those are the things I do as service and in service to humanity and community. And I just, we need to shine brightly together. That's the bottom line there.
I think that's beautiful, Howard. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Everybody, the links are in the bio, in the description area, along with his bio. So please make sure that you click there. Thank you, Howard. Have an amazing day, okay?
Keep shining brightly. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming on. Remember, for the 1 hour mastermind and the planner, go to youarelovedplanner.com. And that will take you to be able to buy the planner and get you set up for the 1 hour mastermind as well. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for coming on today. And I hope you have an amazing day.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of You Are Loved. If you have any topic ideas or would like to be a guest on the show, please hit us up on Instagram at youareloved.store.